Hello there, in this video I'm going to quickly run through what to expect in AQA's English Language Paper 2. Paper 2 contains two extracts. One is likely to be from the 1800s and the second is likely to be from a more recent period, probably after 2000. Now question 1 is about one text, question 2 is about both texts, question 3 is about the same text that question 1 was about, and question 4 is about both texts again. Now for this reason, you have the option of switching the order that you answer the questions in. So the exam board has suggested that it is optional to answer question 1 and 3 together because they're about the same text, and then only then to read the second text and answer questions 2 and 4 together. It's entirely up to you and entirely whatever your teachers advised you to do as to which order you answer these questions in. A very quick summary then of the 4 questions and what to expect in each one. I'll run through these in more detail in a moment. Question 1 though is the 4-mark question, very simple, true or false. Select the 4 responses that are true. Question 2 is the simple comparison. Summarize the similarities or differences between the two texts. Question 3, this is very similar to question 2 on paper 1, although this is worth 12 marks, so you're expected to write a little bit more and in a bit more detail, analysing language. And question 4 finally is comparing the attitudes between the two texts, so this is a more detailed comparison. This is building on the comparisons you found for question 2. In terms of timings then, I recommend that you spend about 8 minutes reading source A and answering question 1. That you spend 12 minutes reading source B and answering question 2, that you spend 15 minutes then going back to source A and answering question 3, and that you then leave yourself 25 minutes for the more detailed comparison, question 4. Now, as I said earlier, there is the option of switching the order in which you answer these questions, but the timings still remain the same. You still allow yourself 12 minutes to answer question 2, which includes reading source B. Now, before I move on to talk about the questions in a bit more detail, I'd like to draw your attention to this. This is advice from the exam board about how to use references to the text, how to use evidence and quotations. Now, the exam board do emphasise that there isn't a target number of quotations or evidence from the text that you need to use. What's important is not the number of quotations or textual references you use, but how you use them. Your quotations or evidence need to be judicious, so you need to choose the quotations or the references to the text that back up your point the best. If you're saying that the boy is scared, don't say that his t-shirt is blue. Quite obviously, that is not a judicious reference to the text. The fact that his t-shirt is blue does not support the fact that he's scared. Your analysis of these quotations also needs to be perceptive. So in terms of reference to the text, it's not about how many, but how well you use them. Before I leave you at the end of this video with an example paper for you to work through, I'm just going to run through in a little bit more detail the questions. So question 1 is about identifying facts from the text that you're given when you see them out of context. So these facts are going to be listed underneath where question 1 is written, and you need to tick the ones that you think are true. Sometimes there are subtle differences, so don't rush this question. Although it's simple, most students end up getting 3 out of 4 on this question because they've missed a subtle difference. So do go back and double check your answers in this question. Question 2 is the brief summary. So this is a comparative question, but it doesn't, unlike question 4, require you to analyse language. So you have 2 choices here. Either you deal with source A first and then source B, or you integrate your comparison between source A and source B. Either way, you need to try and make 2 or 3 comparative points, and you need to make 3 statements, quotations, and inferences for each text. I emphasise here that you should make a statement, use a quotation that backs up that statement, and then explain what the reader could infer from that statement. There should be no language analysis in this question. You shouldn't be picking out language techniques and using terminology in this question. The most important thing here instead is to read the question and make sure that your comparison focuses on the similarities or the differences and whatever it is that the exam has specifically asked you to focus on. Question 3, you need to focus on the language chosen by the writer. This is very similar to question 2 in paper 1. You need to write 3 to 4 paragraphs analysing the writer's language choices and their potential effects on the reader. And this is where you might need to use your language terminology to reach the very top bands. And finally, question 4. This is the question that you've left yourself 25 minutes for because it is worth 16 marks. It's the biggest reading question on this paper. This is a more detailed comparison. So you might want to look back at your question 2 and 3 and use the information that you wrote and the analysis that you did in those questions, but you need to make sure that it's relevant for this question. This incorporates both the comparison and the language analysis. And finally, I'm just going to leave you with a practice paper. And there are questions following on this video, so feel free to pause here, read the texts, and pause on the following slides so that you can answer the questions as you go.